stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence to not only remember our troops serving our country overseas, but all those lost to COVID-19 and their families. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please have a seat.
Notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Law have been satisfied concerning this meeting. The Home News Tribune published a notice along with the Star Ledger on December 20th, 2019. The amended notice was published in the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger on June 5th, 2020. Copy was posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board. It should be so noted in the minutes of this meeting. Councilman Spiller.
Here.
Councilman Ficarra.
Here.
Councilwoman Meehan.
Here.
Councilwoman Drum. Councilman Patel.
Here.
Councilman Anderson. Councilman Bauer.
Here.
Vice President Small.
Here.
And President De Jesus.
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from August 4th?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. First item this evening is second reading ordinances. We'll start with letter A, which is a bond ordinance authorizing the renovation of the former Hungarian Club being acquired by the Township of Woodbridge to be used as the Acacia Youth Center. This bond ordinance in the amount of $400,000. Can I get a motion that this ordinance be passed on second and third reading and the public hearing be opened?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letter A only. Hearing no comment from the public, can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed, the ordinance be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. We'll take letters B and C by consent. Both are amendments to the traffic and parking ordinance 7-38.1 and 7-38.5. The first is to delete a handicap parking space on Thorpe Avenue, and the second is to add 2 spaces on Hyacinth Drive and to delete 2 spaces on Wisteria Drive. With that said, can I get a motion that both ordinances be taken up on second and third reading and the public hearing be opened?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letters B and C only. Hearing no comment from the public, can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed, the ordinances be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Letter D is an ordinance approving a sublease agreement between the Township of Woodbridge and New Jersey Transit with regards to parking. Can I get a motion that this ordinance be taken up on second and third reading and the public hearing be opened?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letter D only. Hearing no comment from the public, can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed, the ordinance be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next on your agenda is listed resolutions 1 through 20, as there are no first reading ordinances. Can I get a motion to approve 1 through 20 by consent?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mitch,
Mr. Spiller?
I'd like to make a comment on resolution number 8. I'd like to ask the council for their consideration and support on resolution number 8, allowing the council to name a private road Shember Way. To refresh, proposed Shember Way is the road from Rahway Avenue that proceeds up to the rear Station Village. Dave was the original GC for the project and was a dear friend to the township. Anytime any resident had any concerns or questions, Dave was there to help. Sadly, Dave passed away suddenly in 2017 and did not get to see his hard work coming to fruition. After speaking to the family, they're very excited and honored to have this done for him, so thank you.
Thank you. Just, council, if you could look at resolution 14 and let me know if you're voting for the entire resolution or if you have to abstain on any item. If so, just give me the item number.
Mr. Mitch, I don't have the item number. It would be for the Avenel Knights of Columbus.
Gotcha, sir. Thank you.
Columbian Club of Avenel.
You'll be abstaining.
Yes, please.
Any other comments on 14?
Mr. Mitch, I have to abstain on Woodbridge Elks, please.
Any other comments on 14? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. That's it, Madam President.
Thank you. We will now move to the public portion of the meeting. Please approach the microphone in the back. If you would like, state the area of the township you live in, and there is a one-time 5-minute time period. You can't record from your seats. If you're going to record, you also have to go to the curtail area back there. Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public this evening?
Hi, my name is Charity C. Warren. So last time, there was a comment about why can't we support Black Lives Matter and the police at the same time, and I'm here to answer your question. So we're going to talk about the history of policing in the U.S. The first known examples of police officers were in the 1719s with the Charlestown City Watch and Guard, and at the same time, they were set to control the movement of property, similar to how Woodbridge Police Department mission and purpose says, to preserve life and property. But as we all know, during the 1790s, Black people were considered property through chattel slavery. The early formation of policing has always been rooted and steeped with anti-Blackness, but more importantly, to control the movement of enslaved people. While some may say that the function of police officers during that time is much different, quite frankly, they are not, and their duties are pretty much the same and similar. Moving forward to the 1830s and thinking about modern-day policing, by the 1890s, every major city and town in the U.S. had a police force, including Woodbridge Police. But let's talk more about Charlestown, because I think you'll find it quite interesting. So Charlestown was a town filled with mostly Black people, and of course, they were enslaved at the time. And the minority at that time was white people. They were living there and they were afraid of slave uprisings, and they were trying to create a group that would ensure that no slave risings would occur. So if anything ever happened, they would have a group of people to control them and ensure that nobody would revolt. But they also worked alongside slave masters and essentially created this task force, also known as slave patrol officers. They were even involved in public lynchings of Black people, and these were what? Essentially police departments. Even after the 13th Amendment was passed, these former slave patrol officers, now known as police officers, were used to control the movement and scare Black people. We see this again through the Reconstruction era, as many police officers enforced Black codes to criminalize Black people for being Black and putting them in jails to be harvesting the same crops that they thought they were free from. Black people were in prison Black people were in prison and enslaved once again to feed this country's consumption with capitalism. A friendly reminder that this country would be nothing without the death and blood of enslaved Black people. We see this again with police officers during the Civil Rights Movement, with police officers hosing down Black people, sending dogs to bite them down, branding people, hitting them with clubs, assassinating Black people in their sleep. These tactics were legal and were used by police departments against Black people fighting for liberation as a means to control them. We see this again during the Reagan administration and the war on drugs, where the presence of police officers were meant to control Black people once again and put them in jail as a means of labor, the same thing as what happened during slavery. And it's continuing the cycle of mass incarceration, which is present today. We see it continually throughout history and today with the mass murder of Black people at the hands of police officers, which is exactly what police officers did during slavery with lynchings. As my major advisor would say, history is cyclical, a cycle that continues when we choose not to change. Nothing has changed. Police officers are slave patrol officers. They are operating in the same function and tactics that they did when slavery was legal, quote unquote, because we know it's still legal under the 13th Amendment with the clause. We cannot support Black Lives Matter and police officers at the same time because the institution of policing itself goes against Black people even being considered people. They were considered property. So that is why we cannot say we support Black Lives Matter at the same time of supporting the institution of policing and police officers. Because policing is steeped in anti-Blackness and the murder and control of Black people. It is institutional racism. It is systemic racism, and it should be addressed as that way. It is not an individual police officer issue. It is the whole system of itself of policing, which is why we cannot separate the two. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Kason Little, Elizabeth, New Jersey. I'm so disgusted. I'm so disgusted by the disinterested looks and expressions that this council continues to display when your constituents come to this microphone. Whether I'm here or I'm at home watching it. Now, I have family in this township, and I love and care for them deeply. They're my heart. And everyone in this room here is in my heart too, because we know what it is like to live in this country that really does not protect and value us just because of the color of our skin. And it has been like that for over 400 years, and we still cannot catch a break. We still cannot catch a break. You all will never personally understand or feel the type of pain that we feel because your privilege protects you. Mine does not. To think and have that thought roaming in my head that as a 20-year-old man, I can potentially be a next statistic to go down in numbers as somebody who can potentially be harmed or killed by police brutality or systemic racism. That's that type of pain that we have living through our veins, living through our lungs, that you will never understand. And to see the type of faces and the commentary that is being said back to constituents, whether it was watched from home at the last meeting, it is so disgusting. Because think about it. You have people in this town who give a damn and who is not afraid to say to power's face that something is wrong and they want to change it. You should be inviting those people to the table, not leaving them left out of the decision-making process. Because you owe them that and much more. You represent them, and you're supposed to represent their best interests at heart. Don't forget who you're here to serve. Do not forget that. You don't hold them accountable, they hold you accountable. That's how it works. And if you feel like you hold them accountable, then you should resign in shame because you have no place in public service whatsoever. The last meeting that I was at, I had two council make some disgusting facial expressions at me. Just because I was coming over here saying Black Lives Matter. That's how you really feel, right? We see you, we hear you loud and clear. Trust me. You made your mark already. We see that here already. And people from the outside looking in see that. So is that the type of legacy that you want to leave behind? Your kids are watching. And they're watching how you're leading your township. It's not good. Because you're not on the side of justice. You're not on the side of righteousness. All means all, right? Then make sure that black people and their lives are valued in all aspects in this city. That's how you can begin to start that. Not by saying Black Lives Matter, but act on it. Because you have that moral obligation to act on it. And it is well within your purview as council members to act on it. So I don't want to hear that Blue Lives Matter because damn it, ain't no such thing as Blue Lives Matter. You could take off that blue uniform at the end of the day, but guess what? I as a black man can't take and rip off my skin. I cannot. But your officers can. No one is born as a blue man or a woman. There's no such thing as that. But it is such thing as whites and Hispanics and black people. Let's get that straight first and foremost, and then we can maybe move another step ahead. But until you're not willing to acknowledge that, then you are continuously a part of the problem. And maybe you should be voted out or resign in shame and pass the torch to somebody who wants to serve the city and not mistreat and neglect the city. That's how I feel, and that's what I want to say to you tonight. You don't have to be personally affected by something in order to have a heart generated by love and care. Do the right thing and be on the right side of history. Have a great night.
Any other comments this evening?
Good afternoon. My name is Rostafa from West Orange, New Jersey. So, we're here again, and again, and again, and again, and again. So when you guys look at me, what do you see? Can't answer that question. So let me answer it in my way. You see a man of color. Now, how many of you know that I'm also half European? Ah, you wouldn't have known that. Now, if I'm getting pulled over in a car by an officer who's just trying to make quota, God forbid, would they care? Because all lives matter, right? Now, do you know how many times that has actually happened to me? No, you don't. No one does. Not anybody in this room. Now, just outside, all due respect, the Trump supporter basically came out to me. He's like, "Are you a black nationalist?" Okay, because I wear a Jewish garb, that makes me a black nationalist. That is horrifying. That's your community. That is your community. And because that is your community, apparently it's not what you do in your community, it's what you don't do that shows. That's disgusting. That's horrific. Oh, but we're in the United States and we have First Amendment rights. But apparently you didn't think before you answered. That's your town. Oh, but that's not a reflection of us personally. Guess what? You took the office job. You're sitting here. That is your responsibility. Now, when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not saying we hate white people. We're not saying we hate Hispanic people, Asian people. We want all lives to matter, but apparently, because you turn a blind eye, because you say blue lives is over black lives, you're part of the problem. You are part of the problem. Oh, because I'm young and you're just going to sit there and you'll either passive listen or you actually do something about it. Because 9 times out of 10, because we're here again and again and again, you're pretty much going to do the same thing over and over again. Just not do anything. That's fine. Don't worry. That's what you'll be remembered for. We see you. Your town sees you. This state sees you. I'm not coming here out of hate. I come here out of unconditional love, actually. I love this country. I do. And this is why I'm using my First Amendment rights. My father served on the police force. First black on South Orange PD. He was also serving in Vietnam, came home because he was shot. Everybody else died around him. So don't tell me that I don't love my country, let alone my state, let alone my community, let alone my brothers and sisters, regardless of their color. Don't look at me by giving me this idea that you know what you're doing. Because 9 times out of 10, if we're coming out here just to tell you that there's a problem, God, I can only imagine who's going to replace you next. Because don't take my words lightly. Black Lives Matter is not violent. For those of you that are seeing what you're seeing on the news, of what you're seeing locally, or maybe just a state over, that's not Black Lives Matter. Violence is not what we want. Violence is not what we do. Do I hate my officers? No. I'm just disappointed. I can only say the same thing for all my public officials who say that they care about me, but they don't. Because your actions speak louder than your words. I have no more commentary. God bless you all.
Are there any other comments this evening?
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you all here today again. My name is Mia Banks, a lifelong resident of Avenel, and a member of the Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity. All of us members of WYLE can and will continue to research all that there is to know and unpack about the existing failures of our local government when it comes to policing. We understand the strong relationships that our mayor and the councilors have with the PBA, and how you all believe that that relationship contributes to your electability. Week after week, we understand more and more about why exactly and how exactly our police department is overfunded. Week after week, we learn more and more about how our social services are underfunded and just how much we really need them to be funded. But a while ago, I came to the conclusion that us in WYLE constantly working to strengthen our arguments week after week, but being met with no engagement or public conversation from our elected and appointed officials who are supposed to make the key decisions about these policies is unavailing. I want to ask you all, since the Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity formed a few months ago, and since we've presented our demands for policing reform, since we've reinforced our talking points with data, facts, and statistics, since we've confirmed that our statistics are accurate and statistically significant, and since we've refuted and debunked the arguments from Mayor McCormick in support of the status quo and the continuation of our current policy, how much work have you as individuals and as members of the council done to formulate detailed and informed opinions of your own on the state of policing in Woodbridge Township? And please don't be deterred by the tone of my voice. I don't mean to sound accusatory, but I'm genuinely curious. How much work have each of you done beyond, and I want to stress this, the other very important aspects of your job? How much research have you done regarding the well-being and livelihoods of Woodbridge's residents of color compared to others? How much research have you done on the history of policing in Woodbridge that has shaped our racial geography, the history of policy in Woodbridge that has shaped our racial geography and the levels of wealth by race of Woodbridge Township residents? What I've learned about the duty of local elected officials while attending school in Woodbridge is that they're supposed to address the concerns of their residents. And so if you all don't understand the facts that pertain to Woodbridge in the way that we do, and that's the reason why you're all hesitant to do all that you can to address them, I again return to the recommendation of a virtual town hall meeting because I still don't see why that policy of no virtual meetings in Woodbridge can't be altered to accommodate the challenging times we're living through during this pandemic. Last council meeting, Councilwoman De Jesus, in your discussion with my friend Mr. Dabrowski after he spoke, you made a claim that really stuck to me, and I want to address that here today. You mentioned that you're Puerto Rican and you're the first Latina president of the council and that you've done a lot of work for our community. I want to let you know that I'm Puerto Rican too. My mom is 100% Puerto Rican and my dad's black. I also want to congratulate you on becoming the first Latina president of the council because that's an incredible accomplishment, and I can only imagine how much work you've done to get to where you are. My maternal grandparents were born in Puerto Rico, and like a lot of other Puerto Ricans in their time, they ended up in New York City and raised their children there. My maternal grandparents raised 9 Puerto Rican children in Flatbush, Brooklyn during the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And if your family history is anything like my mom's, like mine, then I'm sure that you and your family went through hell and back for you to be where you are today. I know my parents went through hell and back to be able to own a home in Avenel and have their child educated by a well-resourced school system. I say all this to preface my reference to another claim you made last meeting, Mrs. De Jesus. You told Mr. Dabrowski that, quote, unquote, we don't want to admit to all the work that you guys do. I want to respond to that by saying that I believe you, that you have passed legislation that has greatly benefited black and brown residents, and I genuinely thank you for that work. But I also don't want to glorify that work in any way because there's so much more that needs to be done, and we've proven that. I don't want to commend you for doing your job as counselors, and I don't want to commend you, Mrs. De Jesus, and I'm saying this personally as a Puerto Rican, for doing your particular job as the first Latina president in looking out for your fellow Latinx residents. Instead, I'm challenging you all to challenge you to work as hard as you can in this moment to mitigate the systemic racism that plagues Woodbridge Township and affects black and brown residents today. As elected officials in this democracy, it is literally your job to be a part of that solution. We understand how this wave of attention to local politics is unprecedented. You've never seen my face at these council meetings before May 2020. And that's because this activism that I'm doing was inspired by the recent events involving the institution of policing, which Charity informed us on before, and resistance to systemic racism. The national conversation surrounding systemic racism is everything we've been taught. And everything we've been talking about has grown exponentially. This is a modern day civil rights movement. Times are changing, and I'm challenging you, I'm challenging every single one of you to move with them or get left behind. Because we're all young, and we'll all be in this community for a long time. Please don't allow a lack of precedent or a lack of imagination on new ways to do policy take away from your mission to serve our community. Instead, follow the lead of others before us, leaders of color before us, who work tirelessly in advocating for black and brown opportunity. Councilwoman De Jesus, you are able to sit up there as the first Latina president of the council because people like us,
I'm sorry, but your time is up.
in WYLE, who did
Thank you, your time is up.
sit in your position, see the light.
Thank you, your time is up. So I'm going to ask again if, I think that there are people waiting outside to get in. So once you're done talking, if you could give up your seat for somebody else to come in, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary. I live in Port Reading. I've come to realize for the past 3 months that we've been coming here and WILE formed that a lot of council members, and the mayor included, you guys care about one thing. You guys care about keeping your job. You guys care about being reelected. And I just want to tell you that that's not going to happen unless you are serving us. Every time we come here, you guys smirk at us. You guys laugh at us. You guys don't even listen to us. You guys won't even look us in the eye when we're talking to you. You guys completely disregard every single thing we say. I feel like this is, I think, my 6th council meeting, and I feel like we repeat the exact same thing every single time because you guys didn't hear us the first time. You guys claim that you are doing the work and doing your research outside of here, but you didn't have to think about saying don't listen to the public. You didn't have to think about saying we support our blue. You didn't have to think about all those things. So why do you have to think and do your research about something that's involved with human rights? That is my only question to you. Since you all care about being reelected, and I'm here, like, I put my faith in you guys. I voted for you guys, but I won't vote for you guys again if you don't give us what we want. This is not something we can compromise on. We are talking about human rights here. And that's all I'm saying is I will make sure everyone doesn't vote for you too. All right, bye.
Are there any other comments this evening?
Madam President, could I just say something without taking anybody's time? I said it the last time, and I meant it sincerely. I'm not placating. I think WILE has a big advantage because you guys have been organized from the very beginning, and you are ahead of everyone else. After WILE was established and well organized, the Township Human Rights Commission was reinstituted. I know that there's another group out there that I'm somewhat aware of that's active with the school system. And I just want to say again that because of your presentation and your persistence, there is a lot of activity going on and a lot of discussion going on, just not at the pace that you have set and you have accomplished so far. So again, I'm not saying that just to make a statement or to placate you in any way or disrespect you in any way. I am just saying that this is something that at some point in the administration people are dealing with on a regular basis and will continue to because of your efforts and some of the other efforts of groups that have been established because of your presentation. So.
We're not saying, like, we don't hate you. We really don't. We might hate you, but we do not. We want to work with you. We understand your job requires a lot of things, and it's not the only thing we can focus on. That is why we want to work with you, and we want you guys to be transparent with us, letting us know where you are on these issues.
We just spent, and the meeting is not set up in a way that we can go back and forth, but I'd be happy to talk to you. The charity sent out a rather detailed email to, as far as I know, Council President and myself. And some of the stuff I could have answered right away, but others required time. It took us almost 6 days to answer it from last week. So we're trying our best to be accurate with what we can, and we will continue hopefully to catch up to your pace. But I just wanted to respond to that, and I don't want to take away from your time. Yes, we should have them out. And again, Michelle, I'm sorry, I don't.
American with Disabilities Act, if you continue to pursue a $75,000 fine, I just want to report it. They've been bothering me all day.
Okay, we're not going to have shouting back and forth. We have legal representation here. Let us work this out, please. Let us work it out.
I have breathing issues.
You have
Oh, that's where the beautiful woman went. I kept on asking her
Excuse me. We're going to be respectful of one another, whether we have differences of opinions or not. I'm asking everybody to be respectful. If you want to record because of your American Disabilities Act, you're saying you have a medical issue and you don't want to wear a mask, just stay away from them.
Thank you.
Again, if she speaks, no comments.
No, they started.
Okay. Let's be respectful. Let's be respectful of one another. And we're going to allow everybody to speak without any comments from the audience at all.
So, hello,
Go ahead.
I'm Gabrielle. I'm a resident of Woodbridge proper. Councilman Becerra, I want to say thank you for what you said. But I do have to say that the council, your silence is way louder than you think it is. I've watched Councilman Patel pretty much fall asleep this entire meeting. But that's not what I came up here to say. I'm addressing Councilwoman De Jesus for claims that she made last council meeting. She claimed that there were agitators on both sides, on the side of YLE and the other side. But I just wanted to let you know what the opposing side actually said. They called us animals. They said that I didn't have a father. They said that we're not actually out here fighting for Black lives. That man actually said that all the women here should be wearing dresses and that trying to compliment us in some way. And I just wanted to let you know that this other side that you're too afraid to denounce uses racist and sexist remarks, while our side does not. Your refusal to even acknowledge that makes you complicit in what they say. It makes you, Councilwoman De Jesus, complicit, and it makes the entire council complicit. I don't know why you all are afraid to denounce hate. You're all elected officials. You should do your jobs. And the last thing I'm going to say is that Councilman Spiller, you cannot accidentally block anyone on Twitter, and the fact that you have not made a public apology for blocking your constituents who are in this room on social media is very telling of who you are and what you believe. And that's all I have.
And Gabrielle, I want to say something. Regarding the Wiley members, I think you guys are very respectful. You guys speak very well and do your research. So my comment was not meant towards the Wiley members, because I think you guys carry yourselves very well, you speak very well, and you follow through.
Okay, all I'm going to say at that is that's not what you said last time. You said that there's agitators on both sides.
And
you were not
I
agitating.
apologize if the Wiley members take it as that, but it wasn't meant towards you guys.
I'm just saying that's what you said.
That you as young people of this township, you have organized yourselves very well, you represent yourselves very well, and you speak very well.
Very true. I'm just saying that is what you said.
Excuse me one second, sir, with the stick in your hand. You can't be going back and forth. Let me finish. We're trying to extend the courtesy to you because you represented us that you have a medical condition that doesn't allow you to wear a mask. These other people also have a right to not be around someone not wearing a mask. So we're trying to keep everyone a safe distance apart. You're going back and forth and jeopardizes the people on this side of the room as well as the police. And when you walk to that side of the room, you jeopardize these individuals. Stay where you're, let me finish. Stay where you're at. Do what you want to do with your video. And if you want to speak, that's fine too. But if you continue to go back and forth, we're going to have to make other arrangements.
I understand that, but sir, I'm trying to keep my 6 feet, okay? And if I take one step this way, he's going to start pointing at me and being like a drama queen and
Where you're at right now, it's fine. Stay there. Don't move to the left, or your left or your right. Stay right there, and that's it. There should be no reason for you to have to move. All you're doing is taking a video tape of something. Okay, that's it.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Your name, please, where you reside.
Okay. My name is Jabran Abdullahi. I live in Fords, and I'm a lifelong resident. I work with Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity, and at that huge council meeting about a month ago, I spoke about some of the practicality of our demands. Today, I'm taking a different approach, choosing to speak truth to power. I'd like to start with a simple disquisition, just a little hypothetical thought experiment. Does the government of Woodbridge Township stand with its black residents? Will it listen and respond to their demands? Where do its sympathies lie? With law enforcement? The simple act of removing the blue stripe outside on Main Street, an incredibly simple gesture to the black community, would resolve that question. But the reality of the refusal to remove it already answers that question. Since the very beginning of this movement, the story has been a simple one. The story of the deafening sound of silence. We started with agitation and protests, harnessing the raw energy of the movement. We then pivoted translating this energy into organized systemic change by engaging with our local government. The way change is supposed to be made, no? And when opposition reared its ugly head, we made it clear that we outnumber them and we're the real voice of Woodbridge. But this exercise in democracy has been one-sided. Democracy is supposed to be a two-way street where you represent us and we hold you accountable. It's the sacred contract of democracy. Yeah, it's not that hyperbolic to say that this contract hasn't been taken seriously at best and has been voided at worst. Even as I stand here and speak, I'm able to see that this entire event is almost a facade of sorts for what civic engagement could and should be. We come here and say our piece, but not only do we not get a response, we don't even get to know what the opinion of the government is of our comments. It's telling that Mayor McCormick has been dodging us for months, avoiding these meetings, and then uploading an unlisted video with the comments turned off in full support of law enforcement as it currently unacceptably stands, which took us at WYLE just one quick Zoom call to thoroughly dismantle and debunk. And our response is on our Instagram page at Woodbridge YLE. So what I asked of the council is a method of engagement that is actually evocative of the democratic tradition. Because right now we're talking at you and nothing happens after. We've suggested interactive town halls, virtual or otherwise. We at WYLE have done virtual town halls successfully, interacting with our audience even though we have no constitutional mandate to do so as a non-governmental organization. It's not too much to ask to have the dialogue we're entitled to as citizens of Woodbridge. Simply removing the stripe like we asked, or seeing the mayor at one of these meetings would be an absurdly simple gesture to show that you're listening. In sum, it's long past due for this institution to answer to the needs and demands of us, its black residents. This is a democratic institution, and it's time to act like it.
I said,
If you can clap, you can do. We said it at the last meeting. First Amendment right. I have it recorded, and you guys allowed it.
okay, I'm asking you to refrain from booing.
Then they have to refrain from clapping. Because Victoria even mentioned that before.
Okay, is there anybody?
Right, lawyer, do you agree with me?
Hold on.
Hey.
I am going to ask each and every one of us in this room to be respectful of one another. We're all grown adults, so let's behave as such and be respectful of one another.
Are there any other comments this evening? Again, keep in mind in case there's anybody else waiting outside to get in.
Hello, my name is Veronica Estevez. I'm a resident of Colonia. I have been since I was 13 years old. And this is actually my first council meeting I'm really speaking at because honestly everything that I've been seeing really is just insane to me. As you all know, we're out here today to oppose the raising of the budget for the Woodbridge Police Department and remind you, our councilmen and women, as well as our township, that Black Lives Matter. The Woodbridge Township Police Department has been reported as 70% more likely to use force against black individuals, and we cannot allow them to receive more funding to continue these practices. It's time to stand up, all of us, and support the black individuals who both live and interact in Woodbridge Township. I came here today to call on those of you, like me, who are non-black residents of Woodbridge. And I stress non-black because this message extends to all races, including Latinx, Indian, Asian, etc. I understand how easy it can seem to overlook things that do not affect your everyday life. And I understand that it may not seem as bad when you're not the one experiencing it. And I also understand that it can be tiring to fight, especially when it seems like the fight is never ending. But imagine how tired our black residents, friends, and families are at having to carry this movement on their own. You are the ones who need to use your privilege as council members to help defend those around us who do not have that same privilege. We are the ones who need to be allies right now. It is not the time to be silent, and the responsibility has fallen onto us to do what is right. It's time to educate yourselves, your family, your friends, to stand up against other councilmen and women as well as our governmental officials in this town in the face of their inaction. To make it very clear that we will not stand by and allow them to disadvantage our brothers and sisters anymore, because there is no excuse. The support cannot stop there. We need to support black lives before we lose them. We need to properly educate both black and white students on the complexities of racism in our schooling systems. We need to support black businesses and arts and talent and so much more, because black lives don't only matter when they're gone. Black lives more than matter. Black lives are important, and it's about time that we all recognize that. My question for you, council, is will you stand up for the black lives of Woodbridge and meet the WYLE's demands? Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening from the public?
Amber Jarrett, I live in Woodbridge proper. I'm a teacher, and as a teacher, classroom management has always been one of the foundations of teaching. The majority of the time actually is spent on preventative measures, like looking at things on how resources are allocated in the classroom, the environment, relationships, social emotional needs, etc. In fact, the best classrooms have little need for the use of consequences. Research consistently supports the effectiveness of this model, and I find adults are really not that different from children, some more so than others. Behaviors such as breaking the law are typically driven by unmet needs. Both Councilman Anderson and a town resident spoke at a recent meeting about incidents where police stopped a potential home break-in. What was interesting about both these stories is they both involved people under the influence and people potentially suffering from mental illness. I believe Councilman Anderson said it was a drug addict, and the other woman said the man was delusional and clearly intoxicated. I'm certainly glad the police were able to keep those families safe, but with proper prevention, those incidents are far less likely to occur in the first place. And the police and those families are less likely to be placed in a situation in which their safety is potentially at risk. We've spoken about the need to increase funding for these preventative measures. For example, the Domestic Violence Response Team. Regardless of what you say about the program, data supports the need for increased resources. Despite our highly trained response team, there were 3 times the reported cases here in Woodbridge as there were in Edison, which has a similar population. While the mayor claimed this was due to the increased visibility of our team, that's just a belief without data. So a belief without data to support it is just that, his personal belief. As Councilman Fakara pointed out, the fact that they are volunteers do not mean that they're not qualified. I agree. But the fact that they are volunteers does mean that they are more likely to have other jobs and decreased availability. How we spend our money also speaks volumes about the priorities of our town. These volunteers are required to only do a minimum of 2 shifts per month. Paid staff would ensure increased availability and decrease the potential that a victim may have to wait for assistance. I also want to ask what resources and counseling programs that we are investing in for the perpetrators of domestic violence. It appears the response team obviously provides support for the victims, but as we know, arrest and restraining orders are both reactionary and do not address the root or the cause of the behavior. Finally, as pointed out before, having the team act as an extension of law enforcement limits the likelihood that some victims will even seek out help in the first place. Drug prevention and treatment was another thing we brought up. Other towns may use our program as a model, but again, the data supports that an issue still very much remains. Per the mayor's report, Narcan is deployed by our police officers on average twice a week. Those are just heroin overdoses in which the police are called or involved and do not account for other addiction issues or the people that seek out treatment on their own from the hospital. It takes a quick visit to the Quick Check or to the Main Street Tavern here to see drug abuse is definitely a prevalent concern in our town. According to the New Jersey opioid data, overdose deaths in Middlesex County only dropped by 3 last year, from 209 to 206, but the use of Narcan increased slightly. As of July, Middlesex County still has the 3rd highest number in the state of opioid deaths. Granted, we have a higher population, but there are also several counties with significantly lower per capita rates of death. While I'm sure the peer recovery program is having a positive impact, the data suggests a serious problem still exists. On the recommendation of Councilman Fakara, I tried to research those programs, and I do have some questions. I looked at the 2020 budget and saw the $650,000 Pathway to Recovery grant Woodbridge received from Middlesex County from the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development to assist those recovering from opioid addiction in entering or re-entering the workforce. I could not, however, find any specifics on how the grant money is being spent. I assume as a grant, the town is responsible for maintaining records on how the funds have been allocated, and I'd like to know if these records are publicly available. I also see addiction services and recovery listed as one of the 8 divisions under public health services, with the WARM program in particular is mentioned, but they have meetings twice a week, and I noticed the last newsletter they posted was February 2018. They also mentioned on the intervention page local programs initiated by the mayor in collaboration with other towns. I'd like to know if those programs are funded separately from the County Pathways to Recovery grant, and what is the breakdown of these programs and expenditures? Again, you just see a broad, public health on the budget, but there's no actual breakdown on what's being spent on what in terms of public health. Transparency in general is an issue, and if Is this information readily accessible and I'm not just seeing it, or is this information something that needs to be requested by the public under OPRA?
Ms. Jarrett, you can file an open request to get the information.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening? Sir?
Hello, Daniel Jimenez, Avenel, you know me. I want to start off with a quote by James Baldwin. A police officer could be a very nice man, but I don't have time to figure that out. I just know he has a badge and a gun. Mind you, it's 6 decades later, and that is still a concept that we still have to explain to people. I don't care if your daddy's in the police force. I don't care if your brother's in the police force. I don't care if your family and you're in the police force. My uncle was in the police force. I don't care. And you know why? Because it's not an individual problem. It's not a bad apple problem. This is an institutional, systemic, deeply rooted problem. The police force governs itself. So therefore, they protect all those officers that commit all those crimes against our communities, your community. And because they govern themselves, they cannot check themselves. Police officers, for example, in Woodbridge, taxpayer money is used to give them pay when they're suspended for doing something they did wrong. That's on our list of demands if you haven't read them. So why is it that we have this grudge for the police force? Why is it that we hate police? Why don't we hate the fire department? Right? Mr. Crystal? Because I remember last week you told us, why would you want to defund the police? Wouldn't you defund the fire department then? Well, last time I checked, the fire department hasn't killed or abused any people or knocked a young man unconscious back in June. I don't remember any firefighters doing that. You let me know when they do.
We're not debating one another. Excuse me? Okay, we're not going to address one another. You're addressing council with your concerns. I didn't hear him, but again.
This better not be taken off my time. I'm not done.
I am going to say this one more time. Let's be respectful of one another. If you get up to the mic, you're making your comments to the council. Don't address anybody else.
How much time I got left?
You have enough time.
Can I know how much?
I stopped the clock.
I would still like to know how much.
You have 2 minutes, 22 seconds, 22 and 57. 2:22:57.
Good, because I only have one more thing to say.
Can I start the time?
Yes, go ahead. Okay. And that next thing is actually to you, Ms. De Jesus. Now, I remember you said last week you were the first Latina councilwoman. As a Dominican male, I can appreciate that. But if you saw me on the street, and a person saw you on the street, we don't share the same experience.
And that is your opinion. Because like you said, you don't know me and you don't know what my experiences have been.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening?
Again, if you're going to speak, you got to go to the mic over there. Yes.
Cristo, Middlesex County. In the transcript, you wrote my name down as Chris, C-H-R-I-S. That's wrong. C-H-R-I-S-T-O. Also, you guys put a lot of misinformation in my transcript regarding, no, I did not say Reverend Al Sharpton supported Black Lives Matter. I said he supported the Lincoln Annex School that Councilman Kyle Anderson wants to destroy. They just want to twist my words so this way, they don't want people to read the truth. So again, he's missing another meeting, okay? That just goes to show Councilman Kyle Anderson, he doesn't take his work serious. The people that worship him, like Jimmy, this guy threatened me.
Okay, you're addressing me.
I am,
So
but
face this way.
But members in here threatened me the last time, every other time I come, and here they want to BS that they're always being threatened all the time. I come to these meetings, and they're always so disrespectful to you. You're a minority. I saw the video that Jimmy did. Number one, that's misogynistic that he did. You're the first Latina councilwoman. When I asked him, why can't I criticize Councilman Kyle Anderson, you know what he says to me? He says, well, that's the first black councilman in Woodbridge. Oh, so because of the color of his skin, I can't point out when he commits wrongdoings? Like wanting to destroy Lincoln Annex School in New Brunswick, the highest performing school in New Brunswick, that it's all Latino kids and he wants to throw them in a warehouse on contaminated property where he can get cancer. These people here, they call him the champion of minorities. I really don't see that. You know, I see you, you're the champion. Because every time they come here, they disgrace you, they dishonor you. Hey, Spillar, you got a photo with the Ballard family? Councilman Spillar? You got a photo with those domestic terrorists?
You're
Councilwoman,
addressing council president.
Council president, your councilman over there has a photo with the Ballard family that go around threatening women, children, writing bad
Please don't
reviews
touch
on
the mic, 'cause that's gonna
writing bad
affect the
reviews on
audio.
people's business. Will he denounce them? Will he denounce them? No, he's not going to do none of that shit. And all these
Can
people,
we watch our language, please?
First, it's my number one. It's my First Amendment right. Like you guys tried to say I can't boo when you know very well the last time you said I can boo. Now that I said what I have to say, I'm going to continue booing. Lozman versus Riviera Beach, you can't stop me. They want to clap, I can boo. Since Councilman Kyle Anderson's here, I can't curse him off. Obviously, I got to wait again for the next meeting to curse him off. And he's
Well,
a
cursing
coward.
somebody off is not going to get your point across.
No, not at all. But still, maybe you guys try to drag me out in here when I'm not being disorderly. Lozman versus Riviera Beach, Florida. If you do that, it's a lawsuit against Woodbridge Township. So I just want to warn you, the next time I come in, lawyer, and I start cursing Councilman Anderson and I'm not being disorderly, you cannot tell those cops to drag me out. Do you agree with what I'm saying right now?
I'm asking if once you're done with your comments, you can go back to your spot if you're going to continue
I'm
to
asking
be here
you
and
legal
record.
advice. Am I correct about that, lawyer?
I am not here to give you legal advice.
Lawyer.
Sir, I am not here to give you legal advice. Speak what you want to speak before your time is up and you're asked to
How
stop.
much time do I got left?
25
Minute and a
seconds. Minute. 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. A minute and a half.
A minute and a half? I want to say that the Perth Amboy teacher in here is a racist. We all know who he is. I got 5 different folders. I'm going to the Perth Amboy Board of Education. The person who screamed at you, that racist that screamed at you, screaming at a woman, screaming at the first Latina woman, why do I got 5 different folders this thick of his racist postings on Facebook? You guys go to Facebook and see what Jimmy Dabrowski's writing? Any of you? I mean, he comes here and calls you a racist every day. You guys investigate to see the racist crap that he's saying all the time? No. And Mayor McCormick, I got one last thing to say about Woodbridge, okay? And I want, since all of you are here, McCormick,
Don't touch the mic, please.
McCormick, McCabe, McGreevy, they were all together, okay? And there's a rumor, okay, that there was a janitor's closet here in the Woodbridge building where McGreevy and McCabe had sexual relations. Can you let me know where that janitor's closet is? Because I want to record that to show the people watching where McCabe and McGreevy were having sexual relations in this building.
Are you done?
Is my time up yet? Would you like to let me know where the janitor's closet was? You don't want to let me know where they were making love to each other?
The time is up, sir.
And your time is up. Thank you.
My time is up? Okay.
Are there any other comments this evening from the public?
Council President, 2 things. My personal opinion, everybody's entitled to a vacation. Councilman Anderson is not here, but his work is of the highest standard for everybody that he represents, so I just want to make that statement. Although I don't always agree with Jimmy Dombrowski, I can attest to the fact that he is a very good teacher and cares about his students. Just want to say that.
Sir, your name and the section of the town you come from, please.
No, no rebuttal. You know that from the last meeting, so please don't.
Good evening, Dwight Glenn, Woodbridge Township, Woodbridge proper. President Councilman, what is the status on, or if you plan on doing anything about police body cams?
Not as of this moment.
Are there any plans in the future to get body cams?
Director, Business Administrator Smaluka?
It's under review. We haven't made any decisions.
Okay. Okay, so I think it's very important to have body cams because, number one, what's happening is these police officers, unfortunately, the good police officers are being profiled. You have some that's walking around. The reason I can talk, I worked in law enforcement in New York City for a while. You have guys running around with blue uniform on, shield, and a gun, pretending to be police officers. Then you have the police officers. And unfortunately, the good police officers are some put together with those who aren't doing the job. The only people that can, the council, you can't police the police. The directors can't police the police. The police are only ones that can police the police. They're the only ones that can tell these guys when they're acting out, they're doing the wrong thing, to stop. Because it's their pension that's on the line. So these body cams would definitely deter a lot of bad action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening from the public? And again, in the event there are people waiting to get in, consider please giving up your seats.
Good evening, everybody. John Vertaric, Woodbridge. You know, it's a really sad things what's happening. What are we doing to this town? What are we doing to this country? Most of us are immigrants. And all of a sudden, we're not treated equally. You know, see those fingers? Not all that the same. Same as the people. You treat people what they deserve to be treated on. It doesn't matter what color, what race, what education, what it is. But again, we are over here about the police. That's the only thing we got. It's something between civilians, good people, and bad people is police. We don't want to be the third world country like happening in Europe now. The people going to riot, the military is going to step in, because you people cannot do it. We have to do it. And that's what we're coming to. And I do believe very strongly, it's very, very unsafe. It's been not because of the election. And I bet you anything, in 70-some days, that's going to stop. Because it has to stop. We cannot go forward. You know, we panic. American people panic over little things. Snow comes, they buy all the food. Corona comes up, they bought all the toilet paper. And you know what they buy now? Guns. They're buying guns. Why? They don't feel protected. Police won't be here. I hope that's not true. So they got to protect themselves. And that's what the bad news is. What are they going to do with those guns? I'm pro-gun, believe me. I'm not doing no handgun, but I do agree people have guns. We are doing it. What are we going to prove? Destroy the country. Destroy each other. Never mind what minority, what race, what gender you are, whatever it is. It's America. This is not some country. And you can't come over here as a newcomer in a town, even if you're not the taxpayer of this town, and say, we want you people in Woodbridge to do no cops, defund the cops. If you don't live in a town, you don't pay taxes, you shouldn't say that. If you don't like it, go. I didn't like Europe, communism, I left. I tried to escape, I got caught, but I still left. So you can't change being a minority, and you try to change the law. It's true, we do have a bad cops, but most of them are good cops. And I do believe, like Jim said before, it's up to the police department to clean if they've got a bad element that's their job. But we need cops. That's the only thing we got. We don't want a military. We don't want to be like other cities, whatever. But look at the long run. The rest of the world is laughing at us. What are we doing to this country? This beautiful country. We came here to show what we can deliver, what we can accomplish. And this is what's happening. People say it's end of the democracy, it's end of the... We cannot do it. Let's please stop, because we're not going nowhere doing this. We're not going nowhere but saying this, and that. Why is not happening in other towns? Rest of the state in New Jersey, it's happening in Woodbridge. That's what bothered me. Why in Woodbridge? Because we let them. We let people to do because we don't oppose it. And I tell you one thing, if there's no cops, then those people with the guns, they're going to use it. I've seen it where I came from. People will use it because the only thing is left. But America will stay because of the freedom and opportunity for all. And I tell you, talk about the slaves. Next time I come and bring you a book. My grandfather, I'm Slav. We are Slav people, white Europeans, we are Slav people. We are slaves. 1579, my grandfather bring you the book. He was a slave at the Ottoman Empire in Europe. So we are slaves. White people, we are slaves. Even today, the rest of the world, there's more slaves now than ever was before. But that's again, you cannot do, this is America, please. Let's keep it, because where else can we go? Nobody wants us. You try to do, I try to do, anybody try to do something in the foreign countries, it won't last a day. They don't care who you are, what you are. You would not oppose the constitution of the country. It's a law. So don't do it, and because
Time is up, Mr.
we are really
Your time
destroying
is up,
it.
Mr. Vitari.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments this evening from the public?
Starting time. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jimmy DeBrasky. I'm a lifelong resident of Woodbridge Township. I attended my very first council meeting on October 29th when I first noticed the offensive blue line painted down Main Street and where I witnessed our overwhelmingly white police force attack and lie on our one and only black council member for having the courage to stand up against bigotry at a hate rally in a local park. I witnessed his wife outrageously being blocked from even entering the council chambers. And I witnessed my own wife being shouted down by cops as she addressed our police department's appalling lack of diversity. One of these cops was even wearing a shirt with the words, "Blue Lives Matter," an anti-black white supremacist response to Black Lives Matter. When I arrived home that evening, I noticed that my latest Facebook post was liked by a person named Randy Biss, who then quickly unliked it. I looked at his page and soon realized it was Woodbridge police officer Randall Bissett, who was one of the loudest of the cops shouting at my wife during her time to speak. I saw that he was an avid Trump supporter, and that after the murder of 18-year-old Michael Brown Jr. by Ferguson, Missouri police officer Darren Wilson, Randy had shared a Fox News post blaming Mike Brown for his own death. I wonder if Officer Bissett also feels that George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, and countless other black victims murdered by police deserve to die. I wonder if he shares Woodbridge Police Dispatcher Mark Rapace's obscenely racist view that black boys go from handsome to a threat at age 17, give or take a year or two. I wonder if he agrees with the Woodbridge Police Department allowing Mark to resign rather than firing him for his terrifying white supremacist words. I wonder how many other Woodbridge cops feel the same in this toxic, anti-black, Blue Lives Matter police culture that cares a lot about fighting the removal of a divisive blue line and the decrease of their bloated budget, but not at all about fighting systemic racism. In fact, after one of my emails to the council and mayor about the anti-black flags being hung on the bridges over the New Jersey Turnpike, I received no reply as usual, but I was notified on Facebook that I was now all of a sudden being followed by Woodbridge police officer Nicholas Ikovu, whose profile photo was a huge America First graphic, a racist pro-Trump slogan popularized by the KKK. I wonder who might have shared my emails with him. I eventually took to Facebook to post about the racist flags and was quickly unfriended by my Woodbridge proper representative, Councilwoman Nancy Drum. Mrs. Drum had liked the photo of the Blue Lives Matter flag being illegally raised on the Woodbridge Avenue and Port Reading Avenue overpasses, led by Corrections Officer Mark Tawley, who was pictured wearing a Just Stand t-shirt as a white supremacist middle finger to Colin Kaepernick and other black athletes for protesting police brutality and racial injustice. At our last meeting 2 weeks ago, Council President Lisbeth De Jesus decided to finally acknowledge me after completely ignoring and dismissing my numerous emails, where I always include my phone number, and my many council meeting public comments for the past 8 months. Despite my never mentioning her name, and instead of trying to understand my frustration, she singled me out and chided me for it, the same way Councilwoman Debbie Meehan singled out and chided our local NAACP President, Reverend Donna Stewart, and Assistant Treasurer, Reverend Mary Giles, for speaking out against racism in Woodbridge. And no, that inexcusable behavior was most certainly not taken out of context, nor were any of our other valid grievances which have been raised. You will not gaslight us. And yes, the 7 members of the Mayor's Human Rights Commission were indeed appointed by him. He would never sign off on a group that he thought might actually hold him accountable and push for real anti-racist policies, because he wouldn't even let you all pass a bare minimum anti-racist resolution. And please check your email, Council President. I first reached out to you all about that as soon as I learned about it on December 17th, before you were Council President. When Corey, I turned my back on my constituents and blocked them on Twitter, Spiller was still president. In fact, I even reached out privately to some of the predominantly white council members, asking them to use their unearned white privilege and take the initiative to sponsor and second the resolution so the racist backlash wouldn't fall on Lisbeth, Kyle, or Viru, but they refused to stand up against families horrifically being ripped apart and locked in cages out of fear of pissing off the mayor, whom you all seem to have more allegiance to than our most marginalized, oppressed, and vulnerable community members, whom we should be centering. And no, putting all perspectives on the Human Rights Commission is not what equity is. You wouldn't put a COVID denier on a pandemic response team, so why would you put a Blue Lives Matter supporter on what's supposed to be an anti-racist committee? And they're hosting a bus ride to the March on Washington on August 28th? If they're serious about making systemic change, they need to host a march on Woodbridge and challenge our elected officials right here to do better. Last meeting, you said you take great offense to me standing up here and holding you all accountable. Well, do better and I won't have to. I take great offense to you ignoring and dismissing our Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity, who understand better than any of us in this town what policies need to be put in place to help Woodbridge finally begin the shift from being a racist, anti-Black Lives Matter town to an anti-racist, pro-Black Lives Matter town. Please work with them and help us get on the right side of history. Please. I'm being polite. Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening from the public? Are there any other comments this evening?
Sir, you can't be standing there and getting closer to the people when they're speaking.
You don't have a
Situate
mask
yourself, sir, I'm not looking for your opinion. Situate yourself a distance away from the people on the microphone. You keep inching closer to them, and it's not right. It's disruptive to them when they're speaking, and you don't have a mask. You're talking about having a medical condition, sir, I'm speaking. You're talking about having a medical condition, you say, to prevent you from wearing a mask. It's disruptive to the people to your right, and it's disruptive to the people who are speaking. Go back against the wall and keep yourself 6 feet away from everybody. And I'm telling you to do it now. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you.
This is the voting area, right?
Right.
Yeah, but you don't have a mask.
But you don't have to keep moving closer to the people who are speaking. Okay, you're not wearing a mask. Stay right there, and that you can film right there. Don't inch closer. Let the lady speak without you disturbing her. We're clear now, right? Sir, are we clear now? Are we clear? Go ahead.
Ma'am, your name and the town you reside in, please.
My name is Victoria Birch, and I'm from Colonia. Hello, all. At the sake of repeating myself, I asked for more transparency with public documents, making them more accessible and easier to find, like several other people had already mentioned. I asked for these meetings to be held virtually. Again, I understand that the decision was decided upon much earlier in the pandemic, which I think those decisions would have been made before May when we started coming here in larger numbers. At the very least, having it somehow being broadcast auditorily, so you can hear it when you're outside, because when you're out there, unless someone's streaming it live or they pull it up on YouTube, we can't hear anything that's happening out there. And I would like to hear what other people are saying. Also, for the obvious sake of safety, I saw that decals were put on the ground to keep social distance, but that doesn't always work. Just like the no smoking signs don't always work. from my understanding, the mayor has been in attendance to some of these meetings some of the times. I understand that this is the council meeting, so it is not his direct obligation to be here, as it was said in previous meetings, but I feel like the town repeatedly asking for his presence and direct communication in something as simple as the council meeting would be welcome. Right now, meetings, like we've seen from today, are more about a presentation of our viewpoints as opposed to a genuine discussion between all of the members of the council and ourselves, where I think a virtual town hall or something held outdoors would be more beneficial so we can exchange ideas and have an actual conversation, as opposed to just a presentation and then a review and then what would hopefully be a response. These are just happening as I was writing them, so they're not in any particular order. We shouldn't have a problem as a council saying Black Lives Matter solely as a phrase. We're asking for the bare minimum at that point to simply say that people in our town matter. The group that has come here, Woodbridge Youth for Liberty and Equity, they gave a list of demands that had some actionable items in them, but even still, not having an organized group give you the answers for direct solutions isn't necessary for you to vocally say that you support a general movement and a general group of members in the community. We need to acknowledge the cultural problems in our town. Obviously, Facebook comments aren't the responsibility of the council, but acknowledging that these problems exist seems like a very simple first step. And I know that, as Greg Ficara keeps saying, the work is slow. The civil rights movement was an entire decade, so I appreciate the work that the Woodbridge Youth for Liberty and Equity are doing in conjunction with the council and the Human Rights Council. So keep doing the good work, y'all. But with that said, they have jobs and educations outside of this, and they are still putting in vast amounts of unpaid and seemingly unrecognized work. Not unrecognized by the council. I've seen what you guys have been saying, but our community in general hasn't been able to fully acknowledge their work. And I think some press from the council or from our local newspaper or anything like that, recognizing the valiant work that these young, educated people are putting forward, your image would be helped at this point. Your public image would be helped if you were to acknowledge the issues that our cultural system faces, and also acknowledging the work that people are doing to further our progress. I think I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening from the public?
Okay, you good? I remember the first time I stepped in these chambers. I was 8 years old on a school trip with my class. That school year had been a rough one for me. I got in trouble after my teacher falsely accused me for cheating on a quiz, and instead of advocating for myself, I was forced to prove my worth with my performance. Later that school year as well, some of the other kids in the class had already taken part in racist jokes, calling me Blackie, Dark, and other names. Yet I still couldn't find the words or strength to defend myself or tell someone what was happening to me. It wasn't until that field trip when I walked in this building that I finally felt a sense of empowerment. At a young age, I knew that serving others through government was something meaningful. And while I still couldn't find the courage to advocate for myself, I knew I could always advocate for others more naturally. This building symbolized that emotion, being courageous in service to others. That all remained true, even on June 9th when I came here again. A similar feeling of exhilaration struck my body as I imagined this to be a place that had leaders who listened and acted on the concern of residents. And so you could imagine how I felt when my raw emotions of fear were met with words like nationally accredited or you should be pretty comfortable, instead of let's work to change that or I hear you. I thought back to that 8-year-old me who never spoke up in fears of not being believed or supported, and I sat here questioning why I even chose to speak up at all. The reality is, I'm fortunate and privileged enough where I could leave this town and not look back. I didn't have to speak up, but I wanted to. and not just for myself, but for those who are less privileged. For those who, Woodbridge as we know it, may be all they experience. For those who, just like myself as an 8-year-old, are still gaining the strength and courage to share their negative experiences in hopes of seeing better. It's been 10 weeks since I walked up those stairs. 10 weeks filled of insensitive comments, inconsiderate gestures, and inaction by many of our elected officials. Look no further than our main street. Practically every town with a similar size and similar black population at the very least could paint the streets with a symbolic Black Lives Matter message, an idea that was presented to you all in early July. Meanwhile, all we can do is cling to a blue line that still divides our town. And not one word has been said about who presides over the decision-making in this line, why it hasn't been shared, or over the blatant insensitivity and divisiveness that it displays. But I guess I shouldn't expect much, especially in a town where saying Black Lives Matter is too controversial for many to say. A town where the PBA president sees a black person's fear of a deadly interaction with the police as race baiting. A town that posts over 30 officers posing with a Trump 2020 flag in our major newspaper this year. Or a town where a dispatcher of 3 years in the department can feel so comfortable making a racist joke, yet no one thinks to question the climate and culture that would make someone feel so emboldened to think that's okay. This town will always proudly support its police. It shows with the blue line, our budget, comments made by council members at meetings or on Facebook, or even in the form of silence when police misconduct jeopardizes the safety of residents. I'm not saying we shouldn't support the police, and I'm not attacking individual officers besides the PBA president either. But I am asking this town to take a look at itself, at its main street, at its budget, at its newspapers, concerts, schools, and even its elected officials. Is it an inclusive and equitable town? Is it accounting for the well-being of black people that just 50 years ago were being denied mortgages over in Colonia on the basis of their race? Is there substantive representation, let alone optical representation? Well, this has, and always will be to me, bigger than just the flaws in policing. It's worth noting that in my 21 years here, this town has done more to protect and support a job profession than it has to protect and support black people. And as summer comes to a close, I remember a quote from Mayor McCormick on June 7th. He said at the protest, "They'll ask what you did in the summer of 2020, even years from now." And so I ask, when they do, what will they say about Woodbridge, the town, and its elected officials? Because if they ask me, this summer was one in which they let down countless residents. Moreover, I see it as a summer where that 8-year-old, who was just a kid from Avenel that mustered the courage to let his voice be heard, was once again vilified, gaslighted, and attacked by individuals in this town, even those I once had enormous respect for. So when they ask me about my summer of 2020, I'll say to summer was the town I loved and carried with me everywhere I go, turned its back on me and failed me when I needed it the most.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening? Hearing no other comment, can I get a motion that the public comment portion of this meeting be closed?
Motion. Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Madam President, the agenda.
We are moving now to the agenda portions of the meeting. Before I move to my agenda, I would like to acknowledge that 100 years ago today, the New Jersey legislature voted to ratify the 19th Amendment, finally giving women the right to vote. So to all the women out there, let's remember to exercise this right in our upcoming election. Moving to my agenda, item number 8, Hispanic Heritage Festival will be held Saturday, September 19th from 12 to 5 in Tansman Park. Come enjoy live music and learn about the Hispanic culture. Celebren con nosotros el mes de la herencia hispana el sábado 19 de septiembre de 12 a 5 in Tansman Park. Barron Arts Center. Again, the Barron Arts Center is hosting 2 projects. The Pets Project, dogs, cats, and everything in between. It's an art exhibition on view from September 12th through October 3rd. In the spirit of hope and optimism, we present Pets Projects, dogs, cats, and everything in between. Our first in-house exhibit of 2020 will be a bit different in the wake of COVID-19. We will be limiting the number of accepted pieces as well as the number of guests allowed to view the show at any given time. Barron Fest 2020, Woodbridge 13th Annual Fine Arts and Crafts Festival will be held October 10, 2020 at the Alvin P. Williams Memorial Park in Seawarren from 12 to 4:30. This will be an in-person outdoor event which will follow CDC and state guidelines on outdoor events and social distancing. However, for those of us who are hesitant to participate in person, an option to participate virtually will also be offered. You can contact the Barron Arts Center at 732-634-0413. Item number 10, the Free Public Library of Woodbridge. For centuries, people in New Jersey have been producing a stunning variety of textiles. Join Woodbridge Library virtually by Zoom and discover some historic pieces from the Museum of Early Trades and Crafts collection, including quilts, woven textiles, and lace on Thursday, September 10th at 7 p.m. Again, more topics of for September at the library will be programs which will include coronavirus and your finances, reducing stress through meditation, and even a DIY program. Register online by clicking on the program in the calendar for the library homepage, www.woodbridgelibrary.org, or you can call 732-634-4450, extension number 5. The most important school supply is a library card. With access to technology, innovative programming, and educational resources, a library card gives students of all ages the tools to succeed in school. Visit the library in person or fill out an online application from the Educator tab on our website. Census 2020. Please fill out your Census 2020 today. Your response is completely confidential. Remember, your response means more money for schools, more jobs in our communities, and more funding for emergencies. Por favor, complete el formulario del Censo 2020. Sus respuestas son completamente confidenciales. Su respuesta significa más dinero para las escuelas, más empleo en nuestras comunidades, y más fondos para emergencias. That is all that I have today. Vice President Small.
Thank you, Madam President. On my agenda number 9, I had the opportunity, along with many people sitting up here at this dais, to go out to Cypress Park for the grand opening. What an incredible park. To live in Port Reading my whole life and to see that property across the street from the firehouse, that was so, I don't know what you want to call it, but it wasn't nice. But to see that field be built for the special needs kids in the community was just incredible, and I want to commend everybody that worked on Cypress Park. It's just an incredible thing to see. It's a great day for Port Reading, a great day for Woodbridge Township. Number 12, just a reminder, our National Public Lands Day will be held 9/26/20, and that will be at Oros Park on Omar Avenue in Avenel. I'll have more to come as it gets closer. The Jazz Festival is going to be held on September 12th, and again, I'm waiting for the location. I'll get that out to you by next meeting. And just one other special announcement, at Curtin's Avenel Performing Arts on August 28th, there is a Jazz Friday featuring Curtis Lundy and the Emoji Band at 7:30. And on September 25th, Danny Backer and the All-Star Band at 7:30. Again, this is at Avenel Performing Arts in Avenel. That's all I have this evening, Council President. God bless America.
Thank you. I have one more item, number 17, Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights Commission has put out the annual notice document. It was sent to the Star Ledger and the Home News Tribune to be advertised, and that's the meeting dates. Will also be so the meeting dates for the Human Rights Commission will be advertised in the Star Ledger and Home News Tribune. The meeting dates will also be located in the township website and on the bulletin board in front of the clerk's office. The meetings will be in accordance with the statute's requirement of the Open Public Meetings Act. Listed below are the regularly scheduled meetings for the Human Rights Commission of the Township of Woodbridge for the year 2020. All meetings of the Municipal Council will be held in the council chambers. All meetings of the Human Rights Commission will be held in council chambers in the municipal building at 7 p.m. unless otherwise publicized. And again, the meetings will be starting August 31st, September 28th, October 26th, November 30th, December 21, and they are open to the public in compliance with all social distancing guidelines. Again, the dates are going to be advertised in the Star Ledger, Home News Tribune, and you can find them in our website or in front of the municipal clerk's office. Thank you. Councilman Spiller.
Thank you, Council Thank you, Council President Jesus. Item number 2 on my agenda, I'm very happy to announce that the last 2 remaining spots at the Arts Village are now rented. We welcome Kessler Rehabilitation along with Kumon Tutoring Center. Kumon Learning Center helps students with tutoring from kindergarten to high school. The Arts Village is now 100% rented and or occupied. Item number 4, I'd like to thank all our residents that came out last week and helped support the Golden Saints at their car wash. With your help, they were able to raise over $700, which is anything's good for them now since obviously the low enrollment numbers with the pandemic. So keep an eye out, please, for more car wash fundraisers in the upcoming weeks. Item number 7, some more good news to share in terms of renting vacant properties. I'm very pleased to announce that board certified Dr. Kenneth Swan and his team at University Orthopedic Associates has signed a lease to occupy the entire vacant building just past the firehouse, located at 1040 Route 1 North. Over 14,000 in square footage, this will be a nice addition to the area and continues our mindset to continually improve the Route 1 corridor. The rest of my agenda is order. Just one announcement. Residents on 2nd Avenue in Port Reading who recently had the upgraded water main done by the water company, you should expect to see paving within 3 weeks, and as always, you'll be notified beforehand. Please continue to pray for all our residents who have fallen ill or passed away, and continue to pray for our police, fire, EMS, emergency management, and all first responders, as well as our residents and township employees that have to continue to go to work as essential employees. Be safe, be smart. God bless America. That's all I have this evening, Council President.
Councilwoman Meehan.
Thank you, Council President. My agenda is in order. I just wanted to thank Public Works for all their hard work helping the residents in the aftermath of the last storm. We had a lot of calls that came in for people that needed help, and they worked tirelessly, picking up branches, cutting trees, cleaning streams, and doing whatever they could to help our residents. So thank you to them and George Brew and his crew. And just, I know we're getting ready to get back to school now, and it's going to be a difficult road, so I just want to thank all the teachers and administrators who have been working so hard to try to figure out what's best way to keep our students and our staff safe. I know theirs is not an easy job, and there's no answer that will be a perfect fit for everyone, but I just wanted to wish everyone well and a safe start to school, and just have a nice summer, keep safe, be kind to each other. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Picara.
Thank you, Council President. Just a couple of quick items. Oak Ridge Club in Woodbridge, they have outdoor fitness classes going on, and their youth camps are full, but open if you're interested. Stop by and check in. With our community center, the Highland Grove Fruit Pool, Trey Park is going on very well, practicing social distancing. At the community center, the pavilion at the top of the hill, probably one of the nicest vantage points in Woodbridge, overlooking the New York skyline, is available for family gatherings, parties, even weddings. I understand we have weddings going on. Outside activities with the mini golf is fun for families and children, and also the batting cages. Just one quick point at the Crossroads Race, which is September 6th, traditionally the Sunday before Labor Day, generally a 10K and 5K. If you're a runner, you know what that means. This year, because of the COVID and the limitations and trying to keep social distancing, we're just doing the 5K. So that's all I have, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just quickly, again, not moving at the pace that you would hope, but certainly appreciate the passion and the effort that the folks from WILD and everybody else that speaks out, whether you're for WILD and even some of the people that aren't, you all have your right to speak. It is not going on deaf ears. I recognize it's not moving as quickly as possible, but we do appreciate and most importantly respect the courage you have to come out and speak. So I just felt that I wanted to say that.
Thank you. Councilman Patel.
Yes, Council President, my agenda is in order. I'd like to thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Bauer.
Thank you, Council President. My agenda is in order. Let's have one announcement. A letter went out to our residents in the Hope Lawn community regarding improvements in the future of Hope Lawn. As you know, we announced the grand opening of the new Superfresh grocery market on New Brunswick Avenue. Secondly, we are pleased to report that a new traffic signal and pedestrian crosswalk system is slated to be installed at New Brunswick Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue that will ease backups created on New Brunswick Avenue, a project in conjunction with Middlesex County. With many residents taking to the roadways with biking, we are working on installing the familiar Shirley Road bike lanes logos network throughout the township, and we are starting with Hope Lawn. And speaking of biking and walking, we recently completed construction of the East William Street entrance and forge to the Middlesex County Greenway in partnership with the Middlesex County Recreation Department. The project included construction of a paved bike walk path at the start of the Greenway and the installation of new playground equipment at the East William Street Playground and the Community Park. We will continue to advance projects and initiatives that will serve to make Hope Lawn even a better community in Woodbridge. That's all I have tonight. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mitch.
Thank you, Madam President. Under number 1, I'll be noting letter B. You took action on that transfer this evening. I expect letter C for action on September 1. With regards to number 2, liquor license incidents and hearings, I anticipate signing charges within the next week or so. I'll work with Councilman Ficarra to set up a public hearing on that. Number 3, you continued with about 2 dozen renewals this evening. Thank you. More to follow. And just one comment on the election. As you know, the governor announced this past Friday that the November general election will be very similar to the July primary. There are changes after I read his executive order, but as soon as I get through them and work with the county on how the election will be conducted, I'll share that with you and certainly share it with the public. A reminder also, we'll be retiring into executive session immediately after the administration's agenda. That's all I have. Thank
you. You're in the area that you're supposed to be recording from, but...
No, there were text messages being made, and I wanted to record that before this meeting is over, lawyer, get the records custodian. I don't have to do an open request because you were sending text messages just now, and before the meeting ends, I want to take a look at them. You created a public record. The moment you text message during a public meeting, you created a public record, and I want to take a look at those. Make sure he doesn't leave without showing me.
We have iPads where all our information is on our iPads, our agendas, our ordinances, everything that we go over the meeting, they're on our iPads.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I saw him texting.
Business Administrator Sinaluka.
Thank you, Council President. Under Administration and Finance, I have a refund for tax overpayment. For Planning and Development, I have a refund from a current account. For Public Works and Engineering, I have a final change order on contract for a 2019 sanitary sewer cleaner and television, and a final change order for a contract for East William Street proposed pathway improvements. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Legal. Thank you.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that these circumstances exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Municipal Council of the Township of Woodbridge that we will recess for approximately 15 minutes to discuss pending litigation and collective bargaining to which the public is being asked to exit the room. Can I get a motion on this resolution?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions, any comments? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. The public portion
It's
of
an
the meeting
executive
is now-
meeting.
Is it a budget meeting that went after this whole session is over, we can go back? That's all I'm
Yeah.
It is, right?
Okay, we are back in session at 7:43 p.m. Council, you have a resolution before you approving a settlement between Mr. Freeman, the Township of Woodbridge, and Mary Ann Porter. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. So we have that. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.